The coast of Maine has always been beautiful and dangerous. For centuries, ships met their end on the jagged cliffs of Matinicus Rock, their timbers splintered by the unforgiving Atlantic. But in the mid-19th century, one lighthouse keeper and his young daughter made a solemn vow that as long as they were there, no soul would ever be lost to those rocks again. This is the incredible, true story of Abby Burgess-Thigger, who kept the light burning when the entire world went dark. In 1856, Abby's father, Samuel Burgess, was the official keeper of the Matinicus Rock Lighthouse. It was one of the most isolated posts in the entire country. Imagine living on a barren granite ledge, 25 miles from the nearest shore. Your only neighbors are seagulls. Your only music, the constant crash of the waves. For the Burgess family, Samuel, his ailing wife, Abby, and her 3 younger sisters, Tiswasom, their lives were dictated by the rhythm of the tides and the singular, vital duty of keeping the 2 lighthouse towers lit. One crisp January morning, supplies were running dangerously low. The lamp oil was nearly gone, and so was their food. Samuel had no choice but to make the treacherous journey to the mainland. It was a calculated risk. The weather was clear, but the Atlantic is famously unpredictable. Before he climbed into his small boat and rowed away, he turned to his eldest daughter, 16-year-old Abby. He looked her in the eyes and said, "Keep the lamps lit, no matter what happens." It was more than an instruction. It was a sacred trust. Abby nodded, understanding the weight of his words. The lives of countless sailors depended on that promise. She watched his boat disappear over the horizon, a tiny speck in the vast expanse of blue. The morning was calm, but an unsettling stillness had fallen over the island. The gulls were quiet. The air grew heavy and thick. By early afternoon, the sky to the northwest began to change, shifting from a clear blue to a sickly, bruised green. A nor'easter was coming, and it was coming fast. The storm didn't just arrive, it exploded. The wind howled like a banshee, and the sea, once calm, rose into a furious, churning monster. Waves, towering and black, began to crash against the base of the lighthouse, sending tremors through the solid granite structure. The sound was deafening, a relentless cannonade against their tiny fortress. For Abby, her mother, and her sisters huddled inside, it felt like the end of the world. The first massive wave struck the keeper's house, shattering the windows and sending a torrent of icy seawater flooding into their living quarters. Her mother, already weak from illness, and her younger sisters screamed in terror. They retreated to the sturdiest part of the house, but there was nowhere to hide. The storm was everywhere, but Abby's focus was singular. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Keep the lamps lit." With the wind tearing at her dress and the spray blinding her, Abby began her vigil. She had to keep the twin lights of Matinicus Rock burning. Each tower had a spiral staircase, and she climbed them again and again, her small frame battling the gale that roared through the broken lantern room windows. She carried the heavy cans of oil, her hands numb from the cold, and carefully, painstakingly, filled each lamp. She trimmed the wicks, polished the reflectors, ensuring the beams would cut through the tempest. Below, her family prayed in the darkness. The storm raged on, not for hours, but for days. For 4 days and 4 nights, the nor'easter relentlessly battered the rock. The family's food supply, already meager, was soaked and ruined by the seawater. They were left with just a small portion of cornmeal and a single egg a day for the 5 of them. Sleep was impossible. The roar of the wind and the constant shudder of the tower made rest a distant memory. Yet, through it all, Abby did not falter. She was fueled by pure adrenaline and determination. She was just 16. But on that rock, she was the keeper. She was the sole guardian against the fury of the sea. On the 3rd day, she faced a new crisis. The main supply of lamp oil was gone. The barrels were empty. For a moment, panic must have set in. To let the lights go out would be a death sentence for any ship caught in the storm. Thinking fast, she gathered her family's personal, small supply of lamp oil. When that ran out, she took the lard and grease from their kitchen, anything that would burn, and used it to keep the wicks fed. The flame flickered. It sputtered, but it never went out. When the storm finally broke on the fifth morning, the silence was almost as shocking as the noise had been. A weak sun peeked through the clouds, illuminating a scene of utter devastation. The family's small boat was smashed to pieces. The chicken coop, along with their precious hens, had been swept away entirely. The rock itself was unrecognizable, covered in seaweed and the wreckage of some unknown vessel that had been torn apart by the storm. Yet, amidst the chaos, the two towers stood tall, and in their lanterns, a faint light was still burning. Weeks passed before Samuel Burgess could finally make it back to the island. The sea was too rough for any boat to attempt the crossing. When he at last set foot on Matinicus Rock, he found his daughter, pale and exhausted, but standing proud. She was half awake, her hands blistered and burned from tending the lamps, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. She looked at her father and managed a small, triumphant smile. "The light never went out," she whispered. Word of Abby's heroism spread up and down the coast. Soon, news came that 3 different ships, lost and disoriented in the storm, had caught sight of the Matinicus light. That single, unwavering beam had been their only guide, allowing them to steer clear of the treacherous rocks and find safe passage. Dozens of lives had been saved, all because a 16-year-old girl refused to give up. Abby's story is more than just a tale of survival. It's a story of legacy. Years later, after her father retired, Abby Burgess officially took over his post, becoming one of the very first female lighthouse keepers in American history. She married another keeper's son and continued to serve on the Maine coast for more than 30 years. Her dedication unwavering. Her fame even reached the White House, earning the admiration of President Ulysses S. Grant. Her letters from that time, now preserved in the National Archives, give us a window into her life. The pages are smudged with salt spray and wax, a physical testament to her reality. In one, she wrote, "I was never alone on those rocks. The light was my friend, and the sea was my teacher." She didn't see the isolation as a burden, but as a partnership with the very elements she had once battled. She understood the profound responsibility she held, and she carried it with grace and strength for decades, guiding countless sailors safely home. Abby passed away in 1892, but her story doesn't end there. On the coast of Maine, where legends are carried on the sea breeze, they say her spirit remains. To this day, local fishermen and sailors tell stories. They say that during the fiercest storms, when the modern, automated light on Matinicus Rock sometimes fails, another, older light can be seen. It's a soft, warm glow, like that of an oil lamp, appearing through the fog and squalls exactly where a lost ship needs it most. They call it Abby's Promise. Whether it's a ghost story, a trick of the light, or simply the enduring power of a great legend, it speaks to the impact Abby Burgess had, and still has. It's a reminder that true courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's a quiet, steady flame that refuses to be extinguished, holding back the darkness with nothing but grit and a promise. History isn't just written in books. Sometimes, it's written in light, casting a glow that can last for centuries. Thank you so much for watching. If you were as inspired by Abby's story as I was, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of incredible history. We'll see you next time.